Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Qrow's Corner, a quick review of this week's episode of RWBY. And as always, there will be spoilers. Today we're going to be talking about episode 4.6, Tipping Point, which was released on December 10th, 2016. At the end of last week's episode, we saw a glimpse into what might happen this week, and it sort of did. The episode begins with Team Ranger on the road to Haven, and RWBY gets a little reality check about Mistral's size here. And after some playful banter, they come upon a village that they don't have on their map. At first, they just think the village is abandoned, but they find out the name of the village is Oniyuri. The name Oniyuri could be attributed to the Japanese word for tiger lily, but the word Oni means demon, so there is this kind of idea that maybe this is essentially a ghost town, and there's a little bit more to it than that. Ren knows about this place since his parents were involved in its creation. The story is that wealthy Mistral figures wanted to form their own kingdom, essentially, that was separate from the control of the council, but this was thwarted by a Grim attack and it was never completed. So this sounds an awful lot like Mountain Glen from Volume 2, but with this added aspect of the council involved in why it never was completed. And this brings up an interesting question. Does the council orchestrate attacks like this when someone threatens their autonomous control? We don't know who the council is. We don't know who's on it. We don't know if there's councils for each kingdom, but we do know that there is something very strange about the council, and they're starting to get a lot more questions about this council and that it might have some dark truth behind it. I don't think it's outside of reason to say that the council might hire people like Raven or Adam to keep the kingdoms in check, hence the fall of Beacon and why there were Grimm involved. And Ren says it was not just anyone, suggesting that the Grimm didn't just show up, it was like someone led them there. But then we return to Atlas, where Weiss is singing for the benefit for Beacon that they discussed in episode 2. There is a shot of the moon, which is seemingly always connected to Weiss in particular, which makes me wonder, could there be a connection between her family and the broken moon? Possibly. Her father, Jacques, is certainly pleased with her performance, but she's certainly not happy about doing it. She's a huntress at heart. She doesn't want to be the daughter of a wealthy man. She doesn't want to just be a socialite. After her performance is a party where basically we see a trove of Atlas elites patting themselves on the back for all the good that they're doing. But clearly Weiss is upset that the purpose of the fundraiser is seemingly lost among this crowd of elites. The purpose of it was to help Vale after the fall of Beacon. And in this scene, we see Jacques being even more controlling of Weiss. He really doesn't want her to embarrass the family. That's his only motivation. But we know Weiss is a strong and independent person, and Jacques doesn't really want her to be. And while Weiss is reflecting on Beacon, she gets hit on by this clueless trust fund baby named Henry. Now, she isn't interested in him, but he manages to kind of stoke her ire, because really all he is just a rich party crasher. The more and more I see of Weiss right now, the more I like her, because she's clearly out of place among these people who don't care at all what happened to Vale. They even say that Vale had it coming for their lack of defense. And this absolutely sets her off, because why wouldn't it? Weiss was there. She fought. She fought to protect Beacon. She suffered the attacks. She suffered losses. But her father doesn't want her to embarrass the family, so he tries to keep her under control, but all that does is it makes her angrier. And in her anger, she activates her semblance, conjuring a Borbatusk that nearly attacks one of the women. Now before it does, Ironwood shoots it, but the woman is hysterical and calling for Weiss to be locked up and all that. But for his part, Ironwood is really the only ally that Weiss has in Atlas, because again, he was there too. He knows that these people are just talking heads. That's all they are at this point. But unfortunately, what this scene really says is that for Weiss, it's only going to make things worse between her and her father. And it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic continues to evolve over the rest of the season. When we go back to Ranger, throughout their investigation of Oniyuri, RWBY seems suspicious, like someone is there. But we also see that Ren possibly has the ability to sense when danger is near, and sure enough, Tyrion shows up and starts fighting them, and by the way, his weapons are badass. It's clear that they still have a lot to learn because Tyrion is much stronger than the four of them. He does mention that Jean intrigues him, but his goal is still only to get RWBY. That's what his mission is. And during this fight, we also learn that he is a Faunus with a scorpion tail and super speed as well. And RWBY and the others don't know why he's there and why he's attacking them. They think that Cinder sent him, but clearly there's a lot that they don't know, and Tyrion just laughs because, well, that's what Tyrion does. And even as they work together as a team, they are no match for him. But thankfully, Qrow is. And you wonder if maybe Qrow knows who he is. It's obviously unclear. And you also notice that when Tyrion is about to attack RWBY, his eyes change color from yellow to purple. It's possible that this happens when he has this sort of like power up when he's about to strike. Qrow arrives just in time to save RWBY, but now would be a really good time for some truth, because we really haven't gotten a lot of it at this point. But unfortunately, we won't be getting any until after the new year because this is the mid-season break. So while we got a little bit of action that we haven't had for a few episodes, it does seem like, though, this episode just gave us far more questions than we had before. We have questions about Tyrion, how he's so much more powerful than Ranger as a team, but yet RWBY, we know, is also extremely powerful, but does she know that? Does she know how powerful she really is? Maybe not. And this episode gives us a lot to digest, but Rooster Teeth is still playing the long game on information, so we're going to have to keep waiting as they build this story. And hopefully we pick up right here after the break, because this was a tense ending. There was a lot of tension in this episode, especially the way it ended was just with Qrow stopping Tyrion's strike. That was it. So you hope that they start right back here. And the season is definitely about world building, but very soon they are going to have to start explaining some things. Not everything, but just some of these things that they're starting to throw out these questions, because every episode it seems like now we have even more questions to answer. Let me know what you thought of this episode of RWBY. Was there anything I missed? Was there anything that you liked or disliked? And that does it for this episode of Crow's Corner, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Nice work. Good job. If you like what you saw, you can just go ahead and click that subscribe button for all videos past and future. You can also head over to my website and see all the other stuff that I do, including the books I've written. So go ahead. Click stuff.